This episode is in partnership with Authority Magazine. Authority Magazine, a Medium publication, is devoted to sharing in-depth and interesting interviews featuring people who are authorities in business, pop culture, wellness, social impact, and tech.
Joining me as guest co-host today is the wonderful Jane Sibbett. Jane is a talented actress and storyteller, best known for her role in the hit series Friends. Jane is multi-talented. She's also a writer, producer, director, photographer, advocate, and source conduit. Jane is one of the most compassionate and insightful people that I know, and I'm so grateful that she's here today. Today on Believe in People, we are excited to chat with Jessica Craven, a writer, activist, and the brilliant mind behind Chop Wood, Carry Water, a daily newsletter that makes activism accessible and inspiring. Jessica's all about breaking down big issues and showing us how small, everyday actions can create real change.
It is really, truly such an honor to welcome Jessica Craven, who is my touchstone every single day in these wild waters of the world these days. She is comes from an entertainment background, fellow actress, but also the most amazing activist and activator of good people everywhere, upholding democracy and the voice for all. And I am so honored. Thank you, Jess, for being here today. Your Chop Wood, Carry Water has been so moving for me to have things to do every single day in these times. So how are you doing right now? We are speaking into the future right now, but we are right here in the present. How are you in this moment now?
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, first of all. I think that one can be sort of doing fine and also feeling pain at the same time. And so I would say that that's more or less how I'm doing right now. I think you would have to be insensate to not feel pain over what is happening in our country right now. So it is, it's heartbreaking more than anything to see, to see all of it. It's devastating. Having said that, I feel that acknowledging that is just a step on the road to strength. We start out by saying, wow, this really hurts. This is really terrible. And because trying to deny that doesn't help. And then we go, what can I do anyway? I have a long track history of like showing up when I feel terrible. So I've gotten really good at it. So I can feel really bad about what's happening and also feel really certain that I can continue to show up and chop wood and carry water. And I believe that we all can do that.
And Jess, how did that happen for you? How did this all transpire for you to be be a voice that isn't afraid to be straightforward?
Well, so that is a really funny thing. This was all very accidental, all of it, honestly. I was briefly an actor, but I was more a singer. And then I, worked in retail for a long time. I've always loved politics, but I did not work in politics until Trump was elected. And I did not know that I had a voice in this way. Or that I could lead, or that would ever be something that I would be doing. What happened was Trump got elected the first time, and I realized I was going to need to do something, or I was going to lose my mind. Yeah. And I had learned from long experience that in times of distress, taking action can help ease anxiety. And also that, again, we don't have to feel good to be doing good. So we can feel kind of crappy about a situation, but still take the right actions and things can change. Yeah. And I knew that from my own life. And so I started doing that when Trump was elected, and that sort of grew into this newsletter, Chop Wood, Carry Water, which really grew a readership of some number during Trump's first term, but really kind of took off during Biden's term and then has exploded since Trump was reelected. And I really found that this is something I can do. I can take action myself, but I'm also pretty good at bundling actions for other people in a way that is palatable and they feel like they can do. And I have also found that I can do a pep talk. That's something I've found I have a strength at. So that's what I do.
You are brilliant with how, I can go to and look at your Substack every day, or as it arrives in my mailbox, and have some action right there and then. And I love that you've given me permission to talk to my representatives. So just the fact that you're carrying action items is so essential right now.
No, thank you. Yeah. And it in this moment, it can feel very fruitless. Like I get that there's a lot of cynicism of like, oh, it doesn't matter. And the Republicans have all the power now. And what's the point? Or they're not listening. But we have as much power as we decide we have. Mm-hmm. So if we say, what's the use? There's no point, then there will be no point. If we decide that we are a powerful force, we will become that. And so my job is just to remind people of that every day. Like, we have exactly as much power as we invest ourselves with. So we need to stop saying we have no power and start saying we have tons of power and we're going to use it. So that's what I try to do.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I'm Canadian and I'm watching very closely. And we've had our own sort of challenges with Trudeau, and I have to tell you that it was because of our voice and because of the not letting up is that Trudeau's finally gone. I mean, our economy we hope will improve and so forth, and we are very much affected by the states. The truth is that the only way to move forward is to take those little baby actions, no matter what. And so the fact that you're inciting that and being able to share that information with us, it shows that we too know what to do by you saying, here's some options. That's powerful.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, yeah, I find that my experience has been that most people will take action if you give it to them in bite-sized portions.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of the problem is you say to people, call your Congress members, and they think, well, A, I don't know how to do that. B, I don't know what to say. I don't sometimes even know who my Congress member is, and I don't know how to find them. So much of our political inaction, I have found, is simply confusion or lack of knowledge that leads to inertia. In fact, I have a theory that a lot of people who simply don't vote are afraid to ask what it all means, what they really don't understand the process, what our government even does, who does what, and they don't want to ask. So they just sort of say, well, I don't vote. I'm not a voter. I don't believe in that. But if you dig down a little deeper, a lot of it is just like, I'm afraid. I don't know how to get involved. I am afraid.
I was so moved by a story that you told about speaking with, or I don't know if it was on the phone bank, of a woman who said she had never voted, a young voter, and that you took the time to help her figure out how to do this and how to access the information.
Yeah.
And maybe not everyone will have you on a phone call, but you do put it right there in your Substack, the scripts that you can say and the actual hot links so that people can connect. And I am grateful. I was saying to Amy earlier before we got on that I was grateful for the international community to listen in on this one, because we have an international audience here. So that they may also find this empowering ways that they can support. Is there anything that you can think of in the international community that can also support what we are doing here in our country?
Well, I think a couple of things. First of all, guard against fascism in your own country, because it can come anywhere. And right now, fascism sort of seems to be on the march as a global movement. But I think also resistance to fascism is on the march as a global movement. So I think everybody needs to decide which of those movements they're in and realize that if you don't want to be in the fascist movement, it's not enough to just say, oh, I'm not a fascist. Right. We have to actively be in the movement promoting democracy. And I can't emphasize enough how much sort of not participating is becoming part of the problem right now. Okay. Remember that more people who are eligible voters in the United States didn't vote at all than voted for Trump or Kamala Harris. There is just a lethargy and a sort of like, well, I'm just living my life mentality that is really dangerous. So I would say that's one thing. And then I guess the other thing would just be, you can't vote, right? There's a lot of stuff you can't do from other countries. You can certainly donate to organizations that are going to start to be doing really heavy lifting. The ACLU being one of the big ones, the Natural Resources Defense Council, because a lot of what we'll have to do is sue. A lot of, these executive orders, for example, are going to get caught up in litigation. So we have to pay for that litigation.
Yeah.
And so everybody can support that.
Truly.
Yeah.
Truly.
Jess, I'm going to take you a couple steps back. What were you like as a kid?
Gosh, what a great question. I've always been an avid reader. I guess that would be the first thing I would think of, is I always like to read a lot. I still would rather read than basically anything. Particularly these days, history. I am just obsessed with reading history. So I do that almost all the time. Very creative. And I don't know. I was a thoughtful and I think a pretty nice kid. I don't know. I don't remember a lot of my childhood. I think some people have really clear memories of their childhood. I have less so, but I've always been very attached to my family, which I still am. I've always loved animals, which I still do. And yeah, reading, writing, those things have always meant a great deal to me, and my friends, of course. So I don't know. That's about all I can say on that front.
You know, your father actually inspired me, and his wisdom has stayed with me all these years. Just as one little thing that he had said to me, to your point of reading, is that for everything you write, you must read at least an hour. So it was such a profound little spot in the middle of a crazy screen test that he gave me this wisdom, and I'm just so grateful to have that, to see that playing out in you too with your love of reading as well.
Yeah, Dad was I forget that sometimes people know who my dad is. I tend to not talk about him very much in this work, but
yes, I'm sure.
Well, yeah,
just the touch, you know.
Yeah, but first of all, yes, that is true. Dad he also was a insanely avid reader, more than me, and his retention was a lot better, which I envy. But he was really interested in a diverse number of topics, and I think that's important. I think especially when education is under attack, it becomes an act of patriotism and self-esteem for every single one of us to make sure that we are educating ourselves. I mean, books are free. Libraries are mostly, they're still there. Everything we need to know is at our fingertips. And so we need to know, we need to understand, especially our own country's history, but the world's history. I'm reading a book about 1968 right now, which talks about sort of the political upheavals happening all over the world. These things educate and inform us in really big ways.
And we most definitely.
I was just going to ask you what you were reading.
Yeah. I'm reading. Oh, I wish I had the cover in front of me, but it's called 1968. It's by the same author who wrote the book Cod. I'm sorry, I don't have his name in front of me, but it's easily Googleable. But it's an interesting book. I've been on okay, if you really want to go into this with me, this is my obsession. So I've been on a deep dive this year because I started out by reading the Lyndon Johnson biographies by Robert Caro. So there are 4 of them. That's about 4,000 pages in total. Really amazing books to read, and I can't recommend them highly enough. But that got me on a very deep dive about Lyndon Johnson first, and then the Kennedys, Vietnam, which I realized I knew very little about, and then the year 1968 in general, because that's the year I was born, and it was just a seminal year, and in many ways very much like 2024. Right. So I became really fascinated in all of these sort of repetitions and echoes that we're seeing in our own history. But also it gives one a certain amount of solace when you see the cyclical nature of history, and you also remember how many people have fought before us, have fought sometimes needing a great deal more courage than we need. I mean, so far our government hasn't turned tanks on us. They may, but so far we're mostly not risking our lives. Many people have had to do that unquestioningly and are doing it today in Iran, so we've got it better than many right now. And we've got a chance to ensure that our right to protest remains. But reading is a great way to remember how broad and long this fight is. So.
Jess, who supports you? Like, where do you get your strength from?
Well, I have great family. My husband's really supportive and amazing. My family is very supportive. I don't have, fortunately, Trump supporters in my family. My family are all great, liberal, progressive people who are all working to improve the world in their own ways. I mean, my stepfather is a folk singer. I come from, the Chapin family is my step family. And that was, Harry Chapin, and his daughter Jen is now, these are people who have involved themselves in improving the world.
And activists themselves.
Yeah, yes. That's what I mean. Yeah, for sure.
Mean,
Harry was incredible.
Harry was unbelievable.
Yeah. And my stepfather is amazing and has really worked to bring intelligent sort of great music to kids and to adults. And, everybody in the Chapin family is sort of amazing that way. So I have a lot of role models. And also I've got some spiritual practices to keep it somewhat vague. I don't drink, and I haven't drunk in a really long time. And I have some support around that actually fuels me and feeds me in a very profound way to keep it sort of vague. But I rely on that a great deal, on meditation, on contact with friends and family. I feel that physical contact, physical presence with friends and family is medicinal and important, and I avail myself of it. Yeah, the rest is almost as important as the work. They feed each other.
Especially right now in the balancing of these, trying to balance all the energies of the world, and you giving out so very much. I'm glad to hear that you have a practice that keeps you and sustains you as well.
You have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a family that has, unfortunately, some Trump aspects to it, and it's been very challenging for us to go forward, for sure.
Yeah.
And in all of, I know that you know that I have LGBTQIA plus connections, and I so want to make sure that our communities are safe and held, and giving them voice too. For those who are feeling overwhelmed and crumpling down, really in pain, or feeling directly attacked, do you have any specific advice for that community or other communities that are feeling marginalized right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, my kid is trans. They identify as non-binary, so I get this from a very visceral level. And I'll tell you just a really quick story. MJ, my kid, was at a birthday party yesterday for one of their closest friends, and these are 15-year-olds. And they were having a great birthday party. MJ came home. I said, "How was the party?" And they said it was great until the very end. And then their friend started looking at their phone and started reading about the executive orders that Trump was issuing. And she just went into a total tailspin. And it was a really heartbreaking story. But I spent a lot of the last, hour since MJ told me that story thinking about what I'm going to say to this friend, and I'm going to call her and talk to her for a few minutes. And one of the things I want to really urge people to do is not pick up the phone when you are in a moment where you are surrounded by friends and love, to not let them have our joy. And I wrote about that in the newsletter today, that this child's first mistake was picking up her phone when she was in the middle of her joy. Don't give them that. Have your moments of joy. Get the phone away. There's going to be headlines between now for the next 4 years that are going to upset us and gut us. Put the phone down and enjoy your moments with family and friends who love you. Don't let them rob us of that. In the newsletter today, I was talking about, remember how the Grinch stole Christmas?
Yes.
And the moment where the Grinch takes all their stuff, and then he wakes up Christmas morning and he hears them just singing, holding hands and singing. We are going to have to hold hands and sing.
Yeah.
That is something they cannot take away from us. And it will drive them crazy that they can't, but they can't.
That's true.
Yeah. So that is one thing. And then the other thing is just to remember that they are really relying on this sort of shock and awe premise of they're just going to throw so much stuff at us and we're going to get overwhelmed and slink away. But it is really important for us to remember that together, if we stay together, we are stronger than them. There are more of us than them. That the tide of history is on our side. We have lots of tools to fight back. And if we stay in the day, stay together, and do what we can, and then take our breaks for joy, we can get through this. This is not a permanent state of affairs. This has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And our job is to not quit before the miracle.
100%. Because
I
heard you on Instagram. We were talking about, and it hasn't happened in Canada yet, but TikTok. Will you share your views on that?
I mean, they're evolving, to be honest. I've been very frustrated by the way this whole thing has been handled by the Democrats, especially. I think they handed Trump a very easy win.
Yeah.
And I tried very hard to communicate to the people I knew
you were at the White House. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, I have some contacts there. And when this was playing out, I was like, this is just stupid. This is an unforced error. Why are you going to ban TikTok in an election year? This is dumb.
Yeah.
And it's going to come back to hurt us. And it did. I think that Biden legitimately hurt himself, and Harris lost votes over that, and also over Israel Gaza. Just just mistakes were made. Now, though, Trump has, sort of put his imprimatur on TikTok, and it feels honestly gross.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to be there anymore, but it's also, I don't want to be on Meta either, but there's only so many platforms where I can communicate with people. So we're all struggling with this question. What's the lesser of two evils? Do I just stop getting out a message that is vital right now by being pure and getting off of these very toxic programs, or do I stay on the toxic programs? I don't really know. I don't think any of us know exactly what to do. But
the diversification of information, getting the information out is essential right now. And I'm so glad you have so many platforms, but which is the best
platforms that are coming up? Blue Sky. I don't know if you're on Blue Sky.
Yeah. Blue Sky is frustrating. You can't upload a video longer than a minute on Blue Sky. So it's a little flawed for the moment, but hopefully it gets better. Yeah. I think diversification is really important. So Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, TikTok. I just started a Substack that's just for videos. Which is kind of a weird thing, but I just was like, they've just got to go as many places as they can.
Agreed.
So that if we all have to leave one platform, at least there are other places extant. But yeah, it's a really difficult moment. I mean, I don't think anybody can overstate the very complicated, perilous moment that we're in.
Yeah, just in the last 48 hours, so much has changed. And I know that this will be airing later than we're speaking, but how do you begin to see what's going to be happening next? But just prepare yourself as best you can right now.
Yeah.
So how are you fortifying for the next bit when they are taking down hashtags that have to do with democracy and Democrat and all of those things that suddenly are disappearing? Search engines for that on some of the
platforms. How does that happen? I mean, I need to be.
It's Meta.
It is Meta, so they are able to do that.
Yeah, they did last night. You can't.
Did they? I hadn't even heard about that yet.
Obviously we're speaking in the past and when this will air, but hashtag Democrat, hashtag democracy, hashtag fascist, there's no results found. Hashtag GOP, hashtag Republicans. There'll be plenty of things, posts that will come up, but they're removing all of that. It's the way that they've removed the women's reproductive health site on the government website now, that they've taken away the Spanish language translations on the U.S. government websites. It's just they're doing things as quickly as they can and throwing as many things onto the fire as they can. Yeah. So that's why I'm just this hope for we all finding ways that we can connect with one another. And I love your call of like, find me here. If I lose TikTok when that was happening, find me here. This is important that we let each other know where we can be.
Absolutely.
Find one another.
Right. And remember also that especially young people are incredibly innovative and smart. And we've been dealing with censorship on TikTok for years. You can't, no one I know who's a big content creator on TikTok uses hashtags at all. Yes. Because or sometimes I'll do like hashtag puppies, hashtag kittens if I'm doing a TikTok about abortion, because but abortion content is censored dramatically on TikTok. Dramatically. Wow. Like you can't have the word spoken or visually anywhere in your content. You can't say, I mean, anyone who's on TikTok knows this, you can't say miscarriage, you can't say die, you can't say kill. There's all kinds of words. And people get around it. I mean, they can keep working to suppress us.
Yes.
But we have got a very smart cadre on our side working to get around that suppression. And the more they try to suppress kids specifically,
the pushback.
Kids will push back. This is why all these kids just joined this Chinese app, Red Card. They're angry at the U.S. government and they're fighting back.
What's it called? Jess, what's it called?
It's called Red Card, I believe. I'm not super clear on it. I might find myself having Red Note. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I don't know.
Something like that. But I remember
something like that. But my child told me that's where all the kids have gone. They're all there now. Yeah. So they because they're angry at the government here for messing with their TikTok, and so they've moved on. And that is a very problematic, I'm sure, thing in many ways. But like, you can keep trying to suppress Americans, and Americans will keep fighting that suppression.
Yes.
Now we may lose, and we may become, like a really fully repressed dictatorship,
Yeah.
but we're certainly going to go down fighting if that's the case. And people are pretty smart here. So.
And I mean, I think too, Jess. I guess the question is for you: what is your in the short term? What would your ultimate hope be for the efforts that you're putting forward? I don't want to say. I was going to say fight, but that's a sort of a goes against what we're trying to do. But what do you hope for in this short period right now for people out here listening and watching?
To sort of not lean out, but lean in, they want us to lean out. That is their entire goal, is to make it so overwhelming that people just go, I'm not doing politics anymore. I'm just going to do Netflix. To not let these robber barons steal our government and steal our country. They're plundering. This is gutting our government for profit. And I don't want to stand by and let that happen. So part of it is framing this, not in terms of Republican and Democrat, but in terms of the plutocrats who are coming to get rich off of us. And when you frame it that way, suddenly more people are likely to want to fight a little bit more. So there a little bit more of that messaging, I think. But for the most part, I just want people to stay in the game. We are going to lose a lot right now, but there's real hope. First of all, if Ben Wickler wins the DNC race, which by the time this airs, maybe we will know, but I pray he wins, because that guy knows how to fight. He's not afraid of a fight, and he knows how to execute a long-term strategy. We tend to be very like, oh, it's got to be fixed right now or I give up. But Republicans have much more of a like, oh, we're going to fix this over the next 50 years.
Yes, they've been playing the long game.
Yeah. So, but we are going to have to play that long game now too. We have to win in Wisconsin in April. We have to win in Virginia and New Jersey in November. We have to hold some Pennsylvania Supreme Court seats in November. Like, we've got things we need to do, and it's not going to fix it overnight. But if we don't do them, we're completely screwed. And if we do them, we can claw this back. But people need to not give up. They need to not leave. We can all check out and take breaks, and we're going to have to. But we need people to not give up on our democracy. It is critical. And again, I'll just say, like I've said before, it's like that Last of the Mohicans scene where Daniel Day-Lewis is like, no matter what occurs, just stay alive.
Keep running.
That's like good. Right now, we just got to stay alive. We have to keep it alive.
Yes.
Live to fight another day. We can claw this back, but not if we just throw our hands up and walk away.
That's right.
Then the bad guys win.
Yeah.
We don't want
Jess,
that.
any interest in you running for politics?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I feel like there's activists are badly needed. And like what I do right now is a very unique thing that not that many people are doing. Once maybe democracy felt like it were on stronger footing, maybe. But I really am eager to see more people of color and more LGBTQ people and more young people. And I don't hit any of those demographics. So, it's a coin toss. I would think likely not. But first, I just want our democracy to be okay.
Yeah,
that's what I want. So that's
Two things.
My main goal.
I want more people to support you and see what you're doing. So I want to make sure that people can find you. But also, I wanted to say that one of the things you say is just take 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes, use the scripts that are already on Jess's Substack, and call, and with all the hot links right there. And it is not, and I even wrote to her after my first call, like, it wasn't as scary. I actually talked to somebody. It was okay. But no, sometimes it's just leaving a message or writing an email. 5 minutes a day. We can all do that, right?
Absolutely. And I also really recommend signing up for an Indivisible group right now. I have been an Indivisible member since pretty much day one.
Tell me this. What is this?
Indivisible? Oh,
sorry.
That's okay. No, they're an organization, sort of a grassroots progressive organization that organizes grassroots activists to fight back and to help move democracy forward. And they came into existence, started by a couple of former congressional staffers and political strategists. Right after Trump was first elected, they sort of published a Google document with how to organize against the Trump administration, and it went viral. And Indivisible groups sprung up all over the country, and they're incredible. They do everything from lobbying their lawmakers to organizing protests to calling their representatives, all kinds of things. Indivisible groups, amazing, amazing work across the country. But when Trump won the second time, a lot of Democratic politicians sort of folded in very disappointing ways.
Strange.
Some groups did not respond with the strength I wanted to see. Indivisible was their day one with like, we are going to do this. We've got this. They published a new guide. People started thronging to their meetings. And ever since then, they have just been on fire. They are sending out a weekly email that is like explaining what's happening, explaining what's to do. I've always loved them, but I love them doubly now because now requires more courage.
Yes.
And they are showing up twice as much as they ever have. And I really encourage people to sign up with them. Indivisible, I think it's indivisibleteam.org or indivisible.org.
Right.
I can Google it while we're talking, but they're great. My newsletter will tend to offer actions that I mean, they're not my only source by any stretch of the imagination, but I will often make sure to prioritize things that they are asking us to do.
Beautiful.
Because I trust them implicitly. But yeah, calling your representative, it's not that bad. You can do it after hours. Just make sure you leave your full name and your zip code and it will count just the same. And believe me, right now, all of the lawmakers, the worst of them and the best of them, are waiting to see how we respond. Are we going to is it going to be crickets? In which case they're just going to be like, well, why am I going to fight? My constituents don't care.
Right.
Or are we going to be banging down their doors going, what are you going to do about this?
Yeah.
We need to make sure it's the latter.
That's a good point. And I guess on that note, I mean, I thank you so much for your time. You know, at the end of your podcast, we asked the same question. And I know that, I mean, clearly you have to believe in people in order to do what you're doing, but why should other people believe in people?
Why should other people believe in people? Oh, gosh, what a question. Well, because ultimately people are the only source of everything that is magical and holy in this world, for one thing. People, I mean, nature and people are a miracle. Why should I believe in people? Every single person who is alive on this earth right now is an absolute goddamn miracle. Their ancestors for millennia before them have survived when almost everybody around them was dying off. They have survived and procreated, miraculously survived plagues and miscarriages, whatever else happens to humans, for thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of years to bring us to this moment where we get a vanishingly tiny moment on Earth. Every single one of us is a miracle in that regard. Yeah. And why should we believe in people? Also, because people are ultimately the only thing that change the world. We can change it for better, or we can change it for worse, but we are the ones who change the world. We are the ones who create history by what we do. And very small people can accomplish very big things if they set their mind to it. We are creating history. How can you not love and admire people for their ability to do that? For their ability to show courage in the face of incredible fear. For their ability to love, for their ability to show up, for their ability to make art. People are incredible. Some people are absolutely awful, but we always are going to look for the incredible ones. We're going to look for the heroes. And remember, I will close by saying this. I heard from a very wise person once that every single one of us is either going to be an example or we're going to be a warning. We're going to be a warning of the worst that humanity can become.
Well said.
Or we are going to be an example of the best. You make your choice about which of those you're going to be, and then you be that.
Yes.
And become an amazing person who people can admire and trust.
Thank you for sharing all of your ways in which people can get in touch with you.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for reminding me of my purpose again. It's always good to talk about it.
Such an honor. Such an honor to have your inspiration here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. You guys take care.
Thanks. One thing that Jess said that was really insightful to me was that even if you don't feel like doing something, do it anyways. I mean, how powerful is that?
So I mean, yes, true. Absolutely. I just was suddenly just like, she is such an source of comfort to me in these wild times.
I know. And actually, Jane, I hope that did serve your heart, because I know that it's been so tough. And I think when she said, even when she spoke of the things that are going on, the hashtags and so forth. I think that, when she was saying it's okay because
yes,
other sort of solutions,
yes,
it's very comforting.
Yes, she had this great mama heart to soothe as well as to inspire.
Yes.
Absolutely. And
So-
I'm this way. I am shy by nature. So to be in the presence of someone who is doing such hugely important work, I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I really believe in her, and I love her encouragement of all women, whether they are shy or all men and everybody.
Exactly.
Non-binary as well. Every person out there can actually step forward and do something, no matter where they live in the world, about upholding what's best for humanity and what's best for our planet. It's amazing.
Thanks, everyone.